All right, all right, all right. Welcome, everybody. This is Sincere with Anon Radio Live in the All Rights Matter show. We have Brandon Curtis on the line of the Idaho 3%ers. He's the president there, and his guys were responsible for the buffer support in the Oregon standoff, if you will. And he has some updates and some information he wants to share with us today, so we want to go ahead and bring him live on air and see what he has for us. Are you there, Brandon?
I'm here. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, Brandon. Excellent. Just trying to get everything set up here for you because I know we're going to have a special episode today. We're actually going to have test out having a few call-ins today. So after we get out some of the information that updates that you have for us. So first of all, how are you doing? I mean, how's everything going? How have you been holding up? Normally, I get a chance to talk to you off air and, converse with you from time to time, but I haven't been able to lately, so I'm really in the dark as far as how everything is going with you. Have you been holding up well?
Yeah, we've been holding up pretty good. You know, it's been a trying couple of weeks here. I think last time we spoke on the radio, I had four of our individuals in Idaho were just arrested by the FBI. So, we turned our focus to that and their family. So it's been a trying couple of weeks.
Okay. Now, actually, yeah, I do remember in our last interview, four of your guys were arrested, and that was, I believe, was that off of the list of about 68 or something, or was that after the list?
Well, that was after the list that they had discussed. That list that they had discussed and people were referring to and was put out was in reference to, I believe, pretty much just the Oregon situation in Burns. These individuals were picked up in Idaho by the FBI for them being present at the Bundy Ranch in April 2014, 22 months ago.
Yeah, and that's what we discussed in that last interview, how they're setting a new precedent, if you will, by arresting people well down the line. I believe they were just a little bit hurt, if you will, over the fact of how well the Oregon situation was going. So they decided that, hey, if we take a bunch of key players out, this can never happen again, and we can continue our corruption.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly it certainly seems like that's the direction. You know, we've talked about it. We've tried to prepare for that, and we've all suspected that's the way things would go. And now that we're seeing that unfold, it's absolutely unbelievable to see the heavy-handedness that's going on by the federal government. Even attending their detention hearings last week and seeing how that process unfolded in the federal court system certainly goes to show there's absolutely no due process, and you are not afforded any rights.
Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely right. A lot of people don't understand that. They say, well, just turn yourself in, or, just go to court and face it and fight it. Well, when you go to somebody else's playground, you have to play by their rules. And normally they're going to slant the rules in their favor so they can keep their playground.
Yeah. And the other issue, too, with these situations that the federal government does is they get these indictments. And when they go to get these indictments are usually done behind closed doors, private. No one even knows they're going on. And the prosecution, the federal government, gets to present its case, and only its case, to the grand jury that they've selected and hand-selected to put in place to see if they have enough probable cause to move forward with charges. The problem with that is the grand jury doesn't get to hear the other side. They're going in very one-sided. So it's a very difficult situation, especially when you have a grand jury that's brought in after such a large-scale situation like Bundy and the Oregon situation where everyone's been watching it on the news.
Yeah.
So really how fair and impartial.
Yeah,
and it's not.
No, it can't be fair and impartial at this point. I mean, even when it wasn't on the news, I mean, it was a large online streaming thing. It was trending. So,
right.
You're talking about thousands upon thousands of people watching what's going on live streaming, and then thousands upon thousands of people watching the videos afterwards. So it was certainly a large situation, and I'm going to guess that, the jury is going to know a lot more about this situation, or already knows a lot about this situation before it even, goes to trial.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't even really give you the chances to answer to your charges in court, because what they do is they come arrest you based off the indictment. They come and arrest you, and then they file their complaints and motions and everything the following day after you've been taken into custody. So it's really interesting to see how they're using the system backwards, and as far as I'm concerned, not constitutionally. So it doesn't really give you the chance to go in and find an attorney, show up to court, and answer your charges until you've already been taken into custody. It's done by some backdoor deal with the grand jury that's hand selected by the federal government. It's really one-sided.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one-sided. People are being railroaded left and right. Listen, if you can get taken into custody without knowing your charges, and you cannot bail the same day, you don't know your charges, you cannot bail out the same day, and then those charges are written up a day later, you didn't get taken into custody legally. You got kidnapped.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. When you're brought in on federal charges like that, you can't bond out. I mean, there's a way that the states can set up to have bond, but in Idaho, for example, it's either you're being held or you're released, and you're released with all kinds of conditions. And that detention hearing will usually come a week after you've been arrested. It just seems like it doesn't afford any due process. The assumption of innocence is certainly not there.
No.
You're not presumed innocent at anything that I saw, anyways.
No, this is a reoccurring theme. It's certainly something I can honestly say I'm definitely not blind to, and I'm very familiar with. I've seen this happen all around my communities in South New Jersey, Southern New Jersey, and it's just these prison doors, you go in and out, in and out, in and out, and what they do is once you're in, they can hold you as long as they want to. You can literally disappear in the system, and I believe we spoke about that a little bit before too. That's what's so scary to the families. Once they come in and they take out the breadwinner of the family, take him right out of his household. We're talking almost a full 2 years later, in the middle of the night or whatever, the middle of the day. Once that person is gone, the family from that point on, they're scared. Okay, now not only are they scared, but now this person is subjected to the federal system and they don't have to answer to anybody. So you're locked in one of these federal facilities or under federal control where they don't have to answer many questions, and you can get moved around and placed anywhere they want to place you without your family being notified. You essentially are disappeared. You get lost in the system, and that's what's going on across this whole country. It just so happens that the four guys that are a part of the Idaho 3 Percenters under you, they have you and they have the other guys there to kind of shout their names out to keep them alive, but this is happening to a lot of people that don't have any names.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. How many people have gotten lost into the system and just lost in the system, and no one's there fighting for them. And you hit the nail on the head too with they're breadwinners of their household. So now they got kids and they have families to take care of. And no matter if you think they're guilty or not, when you look at this or whatever your position is, they have a right to due process, and a part of that right is to answer those charges. And locking somebody up and then moving them all over the place and not allowing them the due process until they can go answer to those charges it just is going to bankrupt a family. And it's really sad, because they should have the ability to post bond or be released by the judge, go back to work. They are not flight risks. The judge actually during their detention hearings noted that on all the individuals that they were deeply rooted in the community. They posed no threat of running anywhere. They had jobs. They had long-term jobs. I mean, everything was in their favor, but she was just not having it. She wasn't going to release them. to go and support the families. They have mortgage payments to make, and whether you agree with what those guys did or not, they still have the right to answer those charges in the court in Nevada, and in the meantime, still support their families and pay their bills and earn a living.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. That is absolutely right. Hey, I'm of course, we're all appalled by what's going on, by how many arrests have happened after the situation, including your 4 guys there. I want to switch gears a little bit and also talk about something else that everybody is, they're asking me questions about it. They want to hear you speak about it a little bit as well. I've done a couple of YouTubes on it. People want to talk about this Deschutes County investigative report and what their findings were. Do you have any insight or any ideas as far as what's going on with that situation? How do you feel about what their presentation was to the media at their press conference? How do you feel about that information that was presented, and as far as how truthful it was?
Well, from the onset of Lavoie's shooting, we saw the absolute, deceit that the FBI was trying to get us to believe that that's the only video they had that they released. And you couldn't see very clearly, just from the very beginning, anywhere from where, and I believe the FBI coordinator out of Salt Lake said in his initial press release there was only 3 shots were fired. That's it. That turned out to be false. I mean, everything that's been done has been false. It's been lies. It's been absolute cover up. So Deschutes County Sheriff's Department, and I want to talk about that too, because the reason why Deschutes County Sheriff's Department investigated this shooting was because they're an outside agency, if you will. It's what they refer to them as, that needs to investigate. And they're investigating the FBI and they're investigating the Oregon State Police because they were the ones involved in the shooting. But they're really not an outside agency. They're really not unbiased because the Deschutes County Sheriff's Department still work with Oregon State Police. They still work with the FBI. It's really not an impartial, investigation. Truly, if that's what they needed, they should have called it an out-of-state agency to do that. Someone that doesn't work with Oregon State Police. Someone that doesn't, rub elbows. The Oregon State Police captains rubbing elbows with the sheriff's departments. That stuff goes on. And so it truly was not an independent investigation. So that's from the start. And I really try to, look at this report. I've read most of all of it, looked at the photos, and I try to look at it objectively from a law enforcement standpoint with my background. And when I did that, it actually made it look worse, in my opinion, than what was being perceived by the public. It just seems like there was a lot of conflicting things in the written report versus what we saw in the video. Both videos, actually, the one inside the cab and the one from the drone. A lot of leading questions by the investigator who's asking the questions. I mean, a lot of leading questions. When he's getting clarification from one officer, I saw on there that asking if he was scared. Instead of asking if he was scared, he goes, "Now you were really scared, weren't you?" And the officer says, "Well, yeah." And then the response from the investigator was, "Okay, now we're on the right track." I mean, how is that not a leading question? How is that not,
I don't think you can get more leading unless you answer the question yourself.
Right.
That's very leading.
So how is that an independent, unbiased investigation? It absolutely is not.
Absolutely.
I visited that site where Lavoie was shot. They said that Lavoie had over 800 feet of visual sight line from where he rounded the corner to the roadblock. There's just no way. I mean, we've been up there, we've taken photos, we've seen it, we've walked it. If you take into account the snow banks, the snow, the trees, snow in the trees, there was a lot of snow up there. There's just no way that there's just no way.
Yeah, between nerves, the talking, maneuvering in the vehicle that they were doing, which was obviously seen on the camera on Shauna Cox's video, they were talking amongst themselves, And with all the what you were just saying, the outer inner influences, which is the rather large snowbanks, 3.5 feet worth of snowbanks is a lot. And then when you take
Yeah.
account with the terrain and the snow, and the undercover nature of their vehicles, you hit that curve, and as soon as you round that curve, especially if you're going at a little bit of a higher rate of speed, as soon as you come around that curve, that's right in front of you. That's why, he had to swerve to make sure that he didn't hit the people that were there or the trucks that were there. So that's one of the things that I initially said is, oh, good, he swerved so that he didn't look like it was trying to ram his way past. And in my
Right.
opinion, he saved lives. He said, I don't want to hit these people. I don't want to hurt these people. But yet they made it look like, even though in his attempt to save lives and to not injure anybody, that was an obvious attempt on his, part to do that. They made it look like he was trying to, ram into them, if you will. And it's just
Yeah.
not the case. It's just not true. It's very misleading. And that's one thing that I believe that a lot of people need to focus on is the fact that he tried to save lives and tried to make sure nobody did get injured. So you can see that he wasn't in an aggressive mode of trying to run over officers or trying to barricade his way through. He was literally being shot at that point from the front windshield, and now we're in deadly mode.
Well, and if you look at the report, the very first officer they interviewed, who was the one that was behind, I believe it's officer number 2, who was behind Lavoie's truck when he was heading towards the roadblock. He said once they rounded the corner and he could see the roadblock that Lavoie had accelerated. But if you watch the video, you can clearly see his brake lights come on and he's slowing down.
Oh,
You can
yeah.
see it in the video.
Yeah, he just didn't have enough time to slow down fast enough because he didn't realize they were right there.
Right, right. And then a lot of people have said, and the Deschutes County Sheriff said in his press conference that it had been said that Lavoie wouldn't have been able to stop if he wanted to because he was going at such a high rate of speed because their officers were able to stop in time. But if you look at the officer's report, they kept quite a distance from Lavoie when they were pursuing him, so they would have had plenty of time to stop. And they also knew the roadblock was there, where
Yeah.
Lavoie did not.
I was going to say the foreknowledge was probably a big giveaway that they should stop in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And if the other thing you got to look at something as simple as if the officers at the roadblock, and if you look at their diagram, I think they started shooting at Lavoie just around 400 feet away from the roadblock, which is more than a football field away. So you can't tell me that you know the intentions of that driver when they're over a football field away. There's a lot. They can brake, they can swerve, they can stop. There's a lot of maneuvers a driver can do in that distance. There's just no way they knew in their mind that his intent was to cause bodily harm and ram the roadblock.
Yeah.
And then if you look at something as simple, the gentleman from the roadblock started firing rounds at the truck when their own officers were behind Lavoie. So
Yeah.
now we got a crossfire situation. They're shooting at each other.
Well, that's 2 big points. You're talking about, let's back that up a second. The distance, just by logic of the pure distance of how far, about a football field away, of distance. If the first shot is fired at that kind of a distance, you have, as a shooter, you have no idea what's going to happen. You can't say whether a person's going to slow down, what the driver's intentions are. There's way too much space. There's way too much time and opportunity for that driver to slow down. So to
Right.
fire a shot that far away showed the intentions of those that were at the roadblock. The intentions of those at the roadblock were to shoot somebody, to shoot something, hopefully everybody and everything. Because they obviously didn't care at that point. They could have allowed him to come up to the roadblock and then make a decision, whether he was going to stop or not. But no, they fired it, this first shot, I believe, as he was coming through the curve.
Well, and what's interesting is they did that knowing with the with the intelligence, the intel they had prior to, they knew that there was, four other people in that truck, and they're still shooting rounds into it 500 feet away or whatever it
Yeah,
was.
absolutely,
100 feet
absolutely.
away. I mean, that is just reckless.
No regard for life, a complete disregard.
Yeah, I mean, what happens if, and you got to look at it this way. What happens if they would have shot Lavoie through the windshield at that distance, and a reaction of that shot, and it, let's say they shot him in the head, and it caused him to punch that gas pedal down as a reaction from being shot, and he has died behind the wheel that quickly, and now we have an uncontrolled missile heading towards the roadblock as well, so they could have created a worse situation.
Yeah, they could have created. I mean, anything could have happened. I mean, if you're trying to slow a vehicle down and you shoot into the vehicle, which I believe two of the shots went through the windshield, but if you shoot into the vehicle, you could have shot the passenger in the face. How is that helping to stop a vehicle?
Or
You
the
know,
18-year-old girl in the back seat that was sitting in the middle.
yeah, I mean, anything could have happened. Uh, you know, when you're shooting at a vehicle, and of course, like you said, they had the knowledge, they knew exactly who was in the vehicle. It's not like they had to try to figure it out or anything like that. They knew that there was multiple passengers that also included unarmed females in the vehicle. So, at, it just proves that they did not care. It didn't matter when you take the first shot and it's more than a football field away, you have no idea the intentions of the driver. So as a shooter, you're saying, I don't care. I'm going to shoot, and whoever gets hit gets hit.
Right.
And
Right.
that's reckless. That's absolutely reckless. So, another thing that was, let's get back to this report too. Another thing that was, I believe, talked about in the report is they said they didn't deploy the taser. Did you read that?
I did.
How do you feel about that?
Well, we also know that they had 40 millimeter less lethal sponge rounds, so they could have used those. They could use the taser. There was all kinds of alternate methods to stop the threat that they felt was in place. And you have to question if it was even a threat, because you have the officers that put in their own report that Lavoie's back was to them,
Hmm.
and they were able to see Lavoie digging deep with his right hand into his left side jacket pocket or whatever. And so my question is, when do they start issuing X-ray vision to police officers that they could see through somebody and know what they were doing? And at no time in this report did it ever say that the other officer who was standing in front radioed or communicated that he was grabbing for a gun. They just shot him, and they shot him in the back. And anytime you shoot someone in the back, it's a problem.
Well, it absolutely is a problem, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. When did they start issuing X-ray vision? And that's exactly what I said. I said they have no idea what Lavoie was grabbing for if they shot him in the back. How could they possibly know? And the audio is said to be, he's saying, "Well, you're going to have to kill me," or something like that. Now, at the end of the day, that's fine. When you're jumped up off of adrenaline, I think we've all seen what happens off of adrenaline. We've all watched the Final Four that were, at the refuge. So a lot of adrenaline there. A lot of things get said off of adrenaline. But the thing to me that's very odd is this: if you have the person that's coming from their position in the woods, which was more than likely a sniper kind of position, that person comes down and they're using a taser, if you will. Okay, fine. Now, the two officers behind him, they see that their officer or this other officer is within 10 feet, literally within 10 feet of him. So
Yep.
wouldn't it make more sense if you're the two officers behind to say, hey, our guy is kind of close. He has a better handle on the situation. When did the guys furthest away start shooting first?
Right. And
This is not, that's not a normal situation. And then let me just say this one other thing. When did people that got shot in the back start falling backwards?
Well, that's a great point because he did fall backwards fairly rapidly,
So
like
that
there was force from the front.
and that was my point on the taser being deployed. The way his body seized up when he fell to the back right, it looks very much like taser videos that you can easily go to YouTube and see. It to me in the video I put out on YouTube, as soon as they put this information out, same day I put a video out and I said, I believe that they're lying about this taser. And the reason why I believe that they're lying is because what you're going to really find is that Lavoie was tased, and as he was tased, directly after he was tased, he was shot. So that would have mean that the less lethal means of subduing him would have worked well. But the two officers behind were overzealous, and they were wrong in calculating the threat because that officer had already subdued him with the taser, and as he was going down, he was shot in the back. That's why you never seen him move forward, because the taser hit him first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will put a disclaimer out for this. It is hard. When I was in law enforcement, in my days doing that, I would have a lot of people say, well, couldn't you just shoot a warning shot or shoot him in the kneecap, all these things, right? And it really is hard to be in that officer's position and know what the threat level is. I mean, you are there to protect your life and others as well. So it is hard, if you got someone reaching for their waistband, by the time they pull a gun out, I mean, things can happen very quickly. Now, that being said, in a normal situation, if you just look at one officer, if you just look and isolate, it's really hard to armchair quarterback the individual actions. But when you look at all of it in its totality, and no matter how you slice or dice it, you don't shoot someone in the back because you can't see what they're doing in the front. That's not justified shooting. Those officers should be charged. And while we're talking about that, how can we believe any of this report? Because we already know the FBI and their HRT agents that were on scene have lied. So what else is a lie?
Oh, absolutely. They have lied. Let's talk about that too. So in this report, I believe they're saying a total of 8 shots were fired, 3 shots when the vehicle was oncoming, 3 shots in Lavoie's to the back of Lavoie. Those were all fired by the Oregon State Police, and they were all deemed justified. However, there was 2 additional shots that were fired, one that went through the roof and through the window as Lavoie was getting out of the vehicle, and another shot that they're not sure of where it's at, and they don't even, they don't know where the bullet's at either. So it's like the mystery bullet of the whole situation, the 8th shot. Now, those 2 shots are supposedly from the HRT operators, and when questioned after the incident whether they had fired any rounds, they lied and said they fired nothing. So well, when the investigation is undergoing, so now they're trying to figure out, okay, we've accounted for all the other shots, but where did this hole come from in the roof? So when they looked at the trajectory of it and they went over the video evidence, they could see that the person from this position fired that shot. So they went back to the drawing board again and put those HRT operators under investigation.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part, because the Deschutes County Sheriff's Department, and I will say I do commend them for putting that on the public record, that what FBI did. I do commend them for that. I don't want to downplay that, because I'm sure that was not an easy thing to do. Yeah. So I will give them that credit, but it makes you question everything else and how they conducted the investigation, like we've already talked about. So you have these FBI agents that didn't offer up any information. They fired they fired 2 shots that could have been potentially lethal. You have to account for every shot that you take. And then they covered it up. So what you have here is you have an agency, the Deschutes County Sheriff's Department, investigating a homicide. All deaths are a homicide. So they're investigating a homicide. And you have 2 people that were involved in that entire situation, withhold information, they lied, They discharged their firearms. They violated their policies. They violated the law, as far as I'm concerned. And what do we get when that's talked? When that's put out in the public? We get the FBI director out of Salt Lake saying, "Hey, don't worry. We're going to investigate our own. Nothing to worry about, guys. Don't nothing to see here. Move along. We'll take care of that." Well, here's how it should have been taken care of. As soon as that information was brought to light, the Deschutes County Sheriff should have went and arrested each one of those HRT agents for obstructing an investigation, obstructing a criminal investigation, withholding information, perjury, and impeding the investigation, because they were trying to effect an arrest on Ammon and those guys for committing a crime, and they were still arrested. Heck,
Absolutely.
They took life of somebody that they were going to arrest. So why aren't those agents sitting in a cell right next to Ammon Bundy to answer to their charges?
And just to bring it home a little bit more so people understand what you're saying and give them a real life example of that happening. The situation that just happened at the Trump rally with all the fighting that's been happening at several rallies now. One of the rallies, actually, the sheriff's department there took it upon themselves to, I believe, fire a few of the officers that were involved in handling the situation. Meaning they investigated the situation, they seen wrongdoing, those officers weren't very forthcoming about that wrongdoing, and they fired them. They didn't play any games, they didn't, pitter-pat around it or anything like that. They did their job. They got rid of them, they put them on leave or whatever, according to whatever their role was. So we don't see any accountability when we're talking about a federal level. We see essentially guys that can act lawlessly and they're still above the law even when they're called out on their lawless behaviors because no one can go arrest them.
You're exactly right. Actually somebody could go arrest him, and it's the sheriff of Deschutes County, and he's the investigating sheriff. They've lied. They've incriminated themselves. They've withheld evidence. If you or I were to do that,
yeah,
we would be sitting in jail right now.
Oh yeah, we wouldn't have even. There wouldn't have been a second thought whatsoever. So why do you think they don't go arrest them? I mean, why do you think they put it out in the public and well, listen, we did find some wrongdoing with these two shots, so we're going to look into that and we're going to correct the situation. Why do you think they put it out in the public, but yet they don't follow through with the full depth of what their powers truly are?
It's just a level of corruption is what it is, and it's a heavy-handed power. It's a power thing. And they don't want anyone to ever challenge them. They don't want anyone to ever step up with their own opinions and views on things that might differ from theirs. And they don't answer to anybody, and that's the problem. We have sheriffs that have the ability to make them answer, but they don't.
Do you think that even the sheriffs, even the most constitutional sheriffs, do you think that they feel threatened by the federal government? Meaning, if they make a move on federal agents and go arrest them, do they feel like there will be retaliation within their professional and or personal lives?
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing that right now in Oregon with the constitutional sheriff. Just because some of the individuals that were at the refuge happened to stop into his county and asked to see him, he spoke to them very briefly and sent them on their way. He is now being investigated. A criminal investigation was launched and made public this morning that sheriff's going to be looked at criminally. And for what? He's the sheriff. He can meet with whoever he wants. He didn't do anything illegal or wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unbelievable.
Absolutely. And when people start, I mean, if this is really the precedent that we're talking about, is if we can arrest people based on their criminal behavior or not their criminal behavior, but their alleged criminal behavior, or maybe they were plotting or planning something. Maybe they were. If we can start doing that, what about when our heads of state You got Obama, and you have Hillary and Bush and all these other people that you see them, and they've in their pictures, international pictures, sitting with dictators from all around the world. So we're talking about here in the States, people that haven't been charged with a crime. They're meeting up with a local sheriff, but yet now the local sheriff is under investigation. But yet you can have the president go meet with a dictator, or have, some of the heads of states that commit atrocities within their countries come on our soil and meet with our government.
Yep, absolutely. And it's a free pass for those, the ones that are above the law, the ones that don't have to abide by the rules they put in place. And going back to what I saw in court, this will tie into what I saw in court when I was at the detention hearings last week for here in Idaho for our 4 guys. I watched the judge, and I would not believe this if someone told me, had I not seen it for myself. I actually watched the judge say in open court on the record that Mr. Eric Parker would need to denounce his beliefs. Since when does it become the court's place to discuss beliefs or ask you or suggest you denounce your beliefs on the record at any point in time?
And who did they ask this to?
Eric Parker.
To Eric Parker, okay. Now, when you say denounce his beliefs, can you clarify that for the listeners and viewers out there?
Sure. What they were referring to was the judge said she didn't feel like she would be assured that Mr. Parker wouldn't have access to weapons had he be released with conditions, because one of the conditions would be that he would not possess or have in his possession any firearms. And what her concern was that Eric would still have the ability to have friends and, whatever that would give him access to firearms. And in real life, you can't absolutely assure anything. So there was no way to really assure that, and that was her point. And then she led into saying that Mr. Parker would have to denounce his beliefs of what he believes in. And Mr. Parker's attorney stood up and addressed that, saying, the court doesn't have the ability to ask anyone to denounce their beliefs. What the court should be asking for is that Mr. Parker would forego his Second Amendment right for a short period of time until he went to the trial, and that would be the court in Nevada's determination on how that goes, and it wasn't a matter for this court here in Idaho. And it was completely disregarded by the judge on that argument. And in the prosecutor, let's talk about the federal prosecutor. I heard him stand up there and say that, when he was given his argument trying to paint Mr. Parker in a violent way, in that he was a flight risk and he was an extreme danger. He was an extreme violent.
Hey, Brandon.
Yes.
Hey, you seem to have gotten far away from us.
Is that better?
Oh, yeah, a lot better. Now, go ahead and say that last part again now.
I think I have an echo. So the prosecutor stood up in court and was giving his argument that the court should hold Mr. Parker, and he said that Mr. Parker...
Hold on, Brandon. Do you have it on speakerphone?
I don't.
Okay, you just started echoing out of nowhere. Go ahead and try it again.
Yeah, I think it's echoing outside too. How's that?
It's okay for now. Let me try this here. Okay, there you go.
Testing.
Okay, you're okay for now. Let's go ahead and try to go on. I'm sorry, but you just got really low and then came back echoey.
No problem. So the prosecutor was giving his argument on why the court should detain Mr. Parker, and he was explaining that Mr. Parker believes that he should protect the Constitution, and that the Constitution was an ideology.
Okay, hold on, Brandon. We're going to have to disconnect, guys. Everybody out there listening, just stay on the line. You're going in and out really bad, Brandon, so we're going to have to disconnect you and go ahead and just dial you back in, okay?
Okay, I'll be right here.
All right.
Hello?
All right, go ahead and talk. Let me see if this is working out for us now.
Testing. Testing. Much better?
Oh, much better. Okay, now go ahead. And you were telling us about, you can go ahead and start off from the point where you were telling us about, what the court was actually saying to Eric Parker in regards of him denouncing his beliefs and not having access to any kind of weaponry.
Yeah, so the court didn't feel like they would be assured enough that Mr. Parker would not have access to firearms of any sort, whether it be friends, family, whatever. And the reality is, we can't, assure anything in life. I mean, that's what it is. Will you stay away from firearms? Well, yes, I will. Okay, great. So the judge had made a statement that the only way she would feel assured is if Eric were to completely denounce his beliefs, meaning the Second Amendment, whatever it is he believed. And his attorney stood up and addressed the court, stating that really wasn't appropriate of the court, that they were only asking Eric to suspend or forego his Second Amendment right for a limited period of time until he got to trial, and then the other court in Nevada would have the jurisdiction to determine how that would turn out, and it wasn't a matter for this court. But that didn't really have any weight on the judge because obviously they held him. And then the other thing, during the argument of the prosecutor, when he was trying to paint all these guys actually in this as violent people, the community would be unsafe if they were let out. And then he made a statement about Mr. Parker, and that statement was that Mr. Parker thinks he's standing up for his constitutional rights, and he was carrying on that way. But then he followed up with something that was so scary and eerie that he said that's only an ideology. That he didn't have that right. That was an ideology only.
That is ideology.
Our federal government and the prosecutors looking at the Constitution and protecting our rights as an ideology.
So this case is really shaping up to be exactly what we said it was going to be here on this show. We talked about how this is really a constitutional battle, and this is why they're reaching back and even arresting people from the Bundy Ranch from that incident, because this is a constitutional battle. They don't want, while everyone is in court and while they're going through their last phases in Obama's last term or last year of presidency, they don't want anybody else standing up now and saying, wait a second, we can come help defend. So what they're doing is they're literally just locking everyone down and going after the Constitution at this point in time. When you have somebody that's willing to say that, and as far as start expressing that this is just an ideology and that this is it'll pretty soon start turning into a fantasy. And then you have the judge saying, denounce what you think, denounce what you believe in, which is really what our founding documents give us as our God-given rights. See, this is why it's scary. I want everybody listening to understand. Statism is a religion. Statism is a religion. The little government, the little g government, they want to be the big G government. They want to be God. They want to be the God of your life. They want to control everything you do, say, watch, touch, feel, think, smell, everything, all of it. So that's what you're dealing with right now. So in order to do that, the only thing that's left between the government having the ability to do that and them not doing it is consent. Now, the consent right now is going to be won through the court system, through this unjust court system that we have. And the way that you win the consent through the court system is you start to slowly shred the Constitution away. This Oregon situation is a perfect opportunity for the government to start eroding more of our rights away. Now, these rights are not normal rights. These are God-given rights. This is why our Constitution is so important, because we have God-given rights. You have to know what you're fighting for. I'm meeting a lot of people who are ignorant as far as the reason why they're even fighting for the Constitution. They're God-given rights. That's why Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say there's three things that need to take place for your rights. You've got to claim your rights, you've got to use your rights, and you've got to defend your rights.
That's right. That's right.
And that's a quote right from Mr. Lavoy Finicum.
Yeah, yeah. And that's absolutely right. And if you can't do that, then you don't deserve your rights. So
Yeah.
we're looking at a lot of people right now that I am, I'm sad to say, but there's a lot of people it's looking like they don't deserve their rights because they don't even know why they have them. They don't even understand that those are God-given rights. And that's the only reason why they have the freedom of speech. That's the only reason that they have, the ability to have a weapon, a firearm. These are God-given rights. And go ahead.
Unalienable.
Yeah, unalienable rights. So you can't take them away. So with these people that are elite and in power are trying to do at this point in time is they say, okay, we can't take them away, but we can certainly change them to benefit us. We can change them to hurt those people and benefit us in our favor. So that's the thing about rights. You're not supposed to be able to change the rights. That's not their right to do. That's not in the list of rights. So
Absolutely.
We're in a scary situation in this country, and I find the level of ignorance in America is at an all-time high. People are caught up in the small side issues, the small tit-for-tat issues, and we have a real crisis brewing, and it's literally at our front doors at this point in time. And if we don't get our guys out of jail and get them out of these prisons, guess what? The judge and the law enforcement system, they're going to do their job over the course of these next few months. Their job from this point forward is going to push some of the most tyrannical paperwork you have ever seen. The federal government is not going to allow this situation to go to waste. They take every little bit of opportunity they can find to exploit it for their benefit. They will use this situation to attack the Second Amendment and your right to free assembly. I'm letting you know now, and I see it coming around the corner, and that's just really what this thing is all about, is the ability to erode more rights away and to separate and segregate us all. And so we'll never ever come together and actually defeat them.
Absolutely. And back to the court cases too, just real quick, because a reasonable person would be able to look at this, and I'm sitting there as I hear them paint Mr. Parker and all these guys as such violent criminals. Why did it take them 22 months to do anything about it? Why did it take 22 months to arrest them? Why did it take so long? Because in the meantime, what these guys were doing, they were working hard, supporting their family. They were doing community activities that I personally saw myself. They were helping homeless people. They were helping vets. And they were also, Eric Parker also applied for it and was issued a concealed weapons permit legally through the state. So if they were so violent that they have to be held now without any release until they go to trial, why did the federal government and the FBI take 22 months to do anything about it? Because it's all lies. It's all bullshit.
Oh, yeah. It's all absolute lies and bullshit. And if they can say that they were that violent that they have to hold them like that, until they go to trial, that's a scary precedent that they're setting, because what they're saying essentially is, we will allow scary, dangerous, violent men to walk amongst you for years after they do things, and we don't care about them until we feel like caring about them. So it's either they're saying that or they're lying, and I think we both know that they're lying. But either way, they would be dead wrong. So it's just not a right situation at all, what they're doing. I mean, it's not right, it's not legal, and it's a way to really to terrorize and to frighten the people, because people will now think twice when it comes to standing up for their rights. They're going to look at this situation and they're going to say, wow, these roundups keep taking place, and maybe it's not really worth me going out there because I don't see enough organization going on, and I don't really, it doesn't deal with me, so I'm not going to go out there to support because, I don't want to get caught up in the drama.
Yeah, I mean, and what they're doing is they're tearing down the trust of American people. You got these guys standing up there saying, "Hey, trust us. You're in good hands, Burns, Oregon. Hey, trust us. You're in good hands while we investigate this." But in the meantime, we're gonna send 2 rounds, downrange that we're not going to account for that could have potentially killed some people. And then, by the way, we're going to lie about it. We're going to cover it up, and then we'll investigate ourselves. So don't worry, trust us.
Yeah, yeah, it's getting
That's
a little.
forward.
Yeah, it is. It really is. You know what? I think let's go ahead and try to open up the lines a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more while we try to get these calls connected. We'll see if we can get a couple call-ins. Let me see here. All right, guys, if you want to call in, the number is 856-265-0705. Again, the number is 856-265-0705. I have my screen up now. If you want to call in, I'll go ahead and take your call. You'll be live on the air as soon as we answer, and we'll pass a couple questions off here to Brandon, or maybe you just have some concerns and you want to join the conversation. We're not going to take a whole bunch of calls, but we'll probably try to just get a couple calls or a few calls. So, again, that number is 856-265-0705. You can feel free to call in. And we have our first call, 541 area code. You're going to be live. Hello, this is the All Rights Matter show, and you're live on air. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, this is Colby Olson.
Hey, Colby, how are you? Where are you calling from?
Oregon.
From Oregon?
Hey, what's up, brother?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Good to hear your voice.
Oh, I'm doing all right.
All right, Colby, and how can we help you out today? Brandon's here online, and I'm just going to go ahead and allow you to talk.
So, I know Brandon. I know what Brandon does. He dispels rumors. Right now, there's one floating around that there's another indictment coming down tomorrow.
Oh, I knew that question was going to come. Colby, to be honest with you, I actually got that intel as Sherrod was dialing the number to go on the show, so I have not had a chance to vet it or verify that yet. But I literally got that instant link just before the show started.
Okay, you know what? Let me ask a question about it, because I want to know about it too, and we haven't gone over it just for that reason, because we haven't vetted it yet. But it doesn't mean that we can't speak about it. So, Colby, what have you heard about that? What information can you give us about that? Have you heard about maybe how many people are on that list?
The speculation at this point says it's to do with Nevada again. I'm not finding anything credible myself, and I usually sit silent and watch stuff like this and vet it as I can.
Yeah. Okay, and when did you notice that come out? This morning, or was that just recently, like within the last couple hours?
It was actually right before you guys got on there.
Oh, this just came out. So we could actually possibly see some action maybe tonight then.
That's a possibility.
And it's possible. I mean, we did hear, I know Colby well, and we were on some previous stuff together, and what was that, 86 arrests a couple weeks ago, or 3-4 weeks ago, they put out that information got out that they were going to have 86 indictments and warrants for people, and it turned out to be like 36 or 34, something to that effect. So, what we're hearing, it very well might be true. The number may be wrong, and names won't be out there, but it might be true. But we did get some information before they arrested everyone last time that they were going to do that, and just the number was off, and it did happen. So it might be the same type of situation.
Absolutely. Okay, all right, Colby. We thank you for your call. Did you have anything else that you want to put in there, brother?
Not at all, man. Just seeing what you guys know.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colby. We appreciate you, brother.
Oh.
All right now. Okay, great. Yeah, are you there, Brandon?
I'm still here.
Okay, good. Yeah, we didn't really cover that just for that reason, because we weren't really certain, if you will, as far as what's going to happen with that whole situation going on. and we wanted to be able to get a little bit more clarity and information for folks.
Yeah, and that's something that we try to vet everything before we.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I'm reloading here, guys, and great call in from Colby there. We thank you for that. Again, guys, we're live here at the All Rights Matter show. We have Brandon Curtis on the line. The number is 856-265-0705. That's 856-265-0705. You can go ahead and call in and ask a couple questions if you like, and just have a little bit of conversation with us, or express your concerns, or throw something out there maybe you've noticed that we haven't covered yet. So again, that's 856-265-0705. So let me ask you, Brandon, what where do we go from here? What's going on with your four guys? Where are they at? What's going on? What are we looking at here? I mean, as far as longevity, what is the mission of the Idaho 3%ers now? As you sit with the other guys in the organization and talk about, your four guys being taken away, and of course everybody else that's locked up as well too. Where do the organizations go from here? Where does PPN go from here? The Idaho 3%ers, where do all of you guys go from here? Because one thing is for certain, the government is not going to stop their overreach. They're not going to stop what they're doing through the Bureau of Land Management. The federal authorities are not going to stop lying and purposely killing people. What happens next?
Well, it boils down to really one thing. We are going to get stronger. These types of things that happen really for us in the PPN and Idaho 3%, it pulled us together tighter. It's also exploded the amount of people that want to join because they see what's happened with these guys and how it all went down and don't agree with it as well. So, we've actually seen a huge increase in growth, people wanting to join. They're waking up. The more the federal government does this, the more people are waking up and just they see it's wrong. So they want to be a part of something bigger that they feel secure in. And that's what we're going to continue to do. We are going to, keep fighting for those guys, and actually all of them. The guys from Idaho, we're working on getting their legal representation, getting that squared away. We're also pushing really hard to help step up to the plate and help the families that are left behind in this. To help with financially, moral support, supplies, food, whatever people can do. We're calling on the Patriot community to help these families. The guys could get some great legal counsel through the public defender in the federal public defender's office. So, but we need to make sure that the families can still get groceries and keep the lights on. So that's where we've put our focus as well. And our members are just so awesome. They've stepped up, and everyone's been helping out immensely.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope, and I just have to say this because I'm a huge skeptic of the whole system, the whole entire system, and I've seen some amazing, dramatic things happen. I'm sure as you have as well. I hope that they get good legal representation, and I hope that whoever that legal representation is, whether it be a team or whether it be one or two people, whatever the case may be, I hope that none of those people put their own interest and their own selfishness in front of the lives of these four individuals, particularly, and the lives of millions of Americans, because the outcome of this case is going to be one that is talked about for many, many years. So I'm praying that, in a system that corrects itself so often, that corruption doesn't boil over into the actual, to the representation of the four that need to be exonerated. They need to be released. This needs to go away for them. This is overreaching. So that is my prayer for the situation, because I don't want to see those guys, go through anything more than what they've already gone through and what their families have already gone through.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And, and I do want to clarify something for the listeners out there. For those that may not know, Eric Parker was the guy on the bridge with the photos that have gone viral and everywhere. And, it's important that everyone understands the context of that photo, because I saw the prosecutor and the government use it in a way that it was out of context. And that photo was a position that he took. He took that position behind the concrete barricades after he was told. He was simply walking with several others. They were walking down the interstate, trying to make their way down to the wash to see what was going on. And they were told over a loudspeaker that the Bureau of Land Management LEOs, the law enforcement officers, the federal agents, contractors, whatever you want to call them, have been given the green light and the authority to use lethal force if they took one more step. And so they were just told that they were going to get shot because they were walking down a highway. So he dropped, along with the ladies that were next to him in that photo, behind the concrete barricade for protection and defense. And that's what people need to understand that aren't familiar with that situation. He was taking a defensive position, defensive posture, to find out what the heck was going on. And they wanted to paint him as a sniper guy or whatever. If you look at the rifle, there's iron sights. There's not even a scope on it. It's not even set up for that. He was taking a defensive posture.
Yeah.
That is it.
Yeah, that's and it's perfectly fine to take a defensive posture. That's something we learned going out on the range and stuff like that, and having to go through many courses through the woods and stuff. You learn about your different postures, and it's crazy what you can do with the photo, and how you can misconstrue a photo. It really is crazy. And now, had anything would have broken loose, excuse me, in that situation, it would have been his right to defend himself, and his family as well, and his people that were there. It would have been his right as an American citizen. And that's what people don't understand. People look at that and they say, well, what do you mean his right to defend himself? What does that actually mean? Well, that means that, we're not beholden to any organization, any federal organization. We actually live by the Constitution, and we have rights. And once those rights are violated, we have a right to defend ourselves, to restore those rights to their original meaning and definition. And we have the rights to do that at all costs once our rights are violated and being stripped from us, especially when our life is being threatened. So,
well, they were just told they were going to get killed. They were just told they were going to be shot, and they were walking down the highway, alongside the highway.
So many folks don't understand that simple concept, though, because they don't understand their God-given rights. So it's good, in my opinion, it's going to be very easy for this tyrannical government to really to kind of walk over the American people, as far as these new gun laws that are going to be coming up. Now, I tell you, I don't know what's going to happen during this general election here, but one thing that I see happening, and I'm going to say this here on air so that the viewers that haven't watched my YouTube channel so they can get this information. But this situation in Oregon is going to set a new precedent for gun legislation and the right to free assembly in America. I've said that already on this show, and this is my second time saying it because I really mean it. Now, when you talk about the precedent that's going to be set, and you talk about the upcoming elections that are going to happen, and then you talk about the threat of ISIS and all these other things that you're talking about, this upcoming election season is very important, not because of the candidates. It's very important because of the opportunity that it creates for the federal government to get one more big shot at passing a mass agenda. Okay, we're all going to the polls. We're all voting. It is heated tension. These Donald Trump rallies have been, just trashy and terrible, and nothing like what the American, people are really like, or maybe what some really are like. But with that being said, all the tension that's going back and forth, and Donald Trump threatening to send people to Bernie Sanders' rally, even though Bernie Sanders didn't do that. This is something that is going to boil over. It's starting to boil over. I put the video out that this Saturday, they're going to be in Arizona, in Mesa, Arizona, and they're fighting. They were fighting over the same venue, so that means there's going to be thousands of people from both camps on Saturday in Mesa, Arizona, fighting, possibly fighting again, and this will be on the news. So you're hearing it here first. Now, this is going to boil over into the general election. This is going to boil over into going to the polls to actually vote. Will people be safe going? Will there be a threat going to the polls? Nobody's talking about that yet. So when you put that together with what's already happened in Oregon and how they're trying to fast track changing the Constitution, even with the murder of Scalia, okay? Everything about the Constitution is being attacked right now. And the people are being used as pawns to change, to further the agenda of the elite. That's what I see happening. So I'm afraid for this election season because I believe that day of the elections is going, and I'm trying to sound the red flag to everybody, that day is going to be a very big day in history because of the potential for riots, because of the potential for violence, because of the potential for martial law within certain states or within America as a whole. We have agreements with Canada. I believe it's called the CAP. I forget what it stands for right now, and I'll pull it up later. I'm doing a video on it as well. But these agreements that we have with Canada state that their military can come over here and help our civil authorities, help our local authorities in detaining, arresting, and everything else, and patrolling our lands. So the entire Canadian force could come to American soil to ensure that our election process goes well. Are we ready to be occupied by a foreign occupation just because we can't even monitor our own election process correctly? That's what we're looking at.
Well, didn't we have a situation where that actually happened? Didn't some Canadian forces or military come down over the border and take some people into custody, if I remember right?
Possibly so. Was it a couple, I believe it was?
Yeah, and I don't remember when because it didn't really catch my attention at that time because, didn't really think about it. But it happened. I don't remember when it happened. It was a little while ago. But they had come down over the border and taken some people into custody, if I remember right, or assisted in an arrest or something to that effect, and it was very controversial.
Well, they signed this agreement in February of 2008. As a matter of fact, it's listed on NORTHCOM, the Northern Command's website, on February 14th, Valentine's Day of 2008. And they actually did utilize the agreement. I believe it was in a hurricane. I believe it was Gustav or something like that. But, they were down there and they brought in their military. They brought in their supplies, their Air Force, a couple of their planes to help with evacuations and stuff like that. So they have actually used it. I believe it's called the Civil Action Plan. But, they've utilized this, and this is what could actually happen during these general elections. So that's why Oregon is so important. People don't understand the precedent that Oregon sets. So, because it's not being talked about in the news anymore, this whole election thing is drowning out everything. And I mean everything. If you want to try to get any issue talked about right now, you almost have to tie it into the election to get any kind of play on it. Because if not, no one's listening to it because they're doing such a good job at saturating the airwaves.
Absolutely. I mean, and let's look at the Oregon situation. If you read the police reports from the investigation of the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, they even indicated in the report that they moved the roadblock back into Harney County because they actually initially wanted to put the roadblock into Grant County, the county north there, because there was a better area to do that, was more give them a better tactical advantage. And they opted not to do that. And the exact words of the police report was because we knew that Grant County was a UN-free zone. What the hell is that? It's right in the police report. I mean, I'm looking at it, and it's in black and white. That is what the officer said. We moved the roadblock back into Harney County because we were aware that Grant County was a UN-free county, is what he said. Just mind-boggling.
Wow. Well, that lets you know that there are certain counties that, and I think that piece of information that you just gave there, I'm actually going to look through and find that, because I believe we need to talk about that a little bit more. That may be a very important thing to know for the future when we talk about foreign occupations within the United States. So with that being said, they were still following some kind of a legal precedent as far as the people who were overseeing that situation. And if we can establish that precedent in more places, where we can pretty much keep federal authorities out based on the fact that if they're operating under UN guidelines or something like that, which would just be, first of all, that would be mind-blowing just to start off. But, if they are operating under those kind of guidelines, then if we can put a legal precedent in place to establish the fact that they can't do that on a certain territory, then we need to all look into how can we make that happen within our own communities so that we don't see this happen where they come into a community and they just do whatever they want.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and we're seeing that, and and don't get me wrong, we try to have good relationships with our local police officers and our police departments, and we really do. And I really believe they work hard to do the right thing, but it still bears the question. What are you going to do when you have to make a decision between choosing what's right and a paycheck?
Yeah.
That's the question that needs to be asked, and that's the question that they're going to have to answer when it comes to that time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely so. All right, well, we had another call that came in, but it looked like it dropped here. I'm going to go ahead and close her down. I want to make sure, I know you got to get a few things done too, but want to make sure you get a chance to get anything left off your chest that you want to let the people know, and also to plug in your information so that, you can keep people up to date with what's going on with the 4 guys that are locked up from your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really trying time right now in the Patriot movement community, fight for your rights community, whatever you want to call it. We're really here all for the same reason. And it's a really trying time with the pressure, with the arrest, and everyone's just on edge. Everyone is, somewhat scared, nervous, concerned, however you want to put it. But this is a time where we all have to pull together. Your organizations come together, or just people and members in the organizations together, or even just as a republic. We have to come together, and don't let it discourage us. Don't let it, tear us down. And I'll be honest. I've been pretty deflated the last couple of weeks as you and I talked, Sherrod. I found myself even taking a step back and trying to just grasp everything. And this is not the time to do that. This is where we have to come together. We have to persevere, stay the course, be vigilant. And just because you're a patriot doesn't mean that you're an extremist or that you're a criminal. And that's what they're trying to do, is paint people that are standing up for their rights. We've always been proud on how we handle things. We always do things above board. We don't violate the law. We don't do that. And they're going to start turning these things against against all people that stand for the rights, and it's a conspiracy. And they're going to make it to where the virus that they say we're spreading, the freedom virus, is going to be a conspiracy to overthrow the government. So they're going to use that to throw people in jail. And we can't stop doing what we're doing. We can't speak the truth. And when you give up what you believe in because of the tyranny, it's no better than what they're doing. So we have to come together. We have to just keep pushing through, as hard as it is. And I admit it's been hard the last few weeks, even for myself, to keep that drive. So we have to do it. We can't give up. And we got to help support these guys' family. The guys that got locked up, all of them. The ones in Portland, our guys here in Idaho, they're now in Nevada or wherever they're headed. We actually can't find them. They transported them yesterday. We don't even know where they're at. They're not telling their families. So it's very frustrating, but we have to step up. Now's the time to step up and take care of one another. And if people can do that and help the families of these guys so we can help pay their bills and groceries and feed the kids, we are absolutely asking for donations on our website, and that website is www.iii% spelled out idaho.org. So it's iii%idaho.org. We have a donations link there. So many people have been so gracious already in helping with that, but we need to keep pushing for that so we can help the families until these guys get home. I know they would do it for us, so we need to do it for them. They were there in Nevada for 12 hours. So they went down there for 12 hours to stand up for our freedom. So it's now we need to stand up for them, and we need to do it and help support their families. Or if you can't donate, even words of encouragement through our website, I'll pass that information on and let them know what people are saying. And if you have anything hateful to say, just keep it to yourself. We don't want to hear it. We just delete it anyway. So don't waste your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's not a time for hate. If you have hate in your heart and you're out here trying to fight for the Constitution, you're hindering everybody else. Stay inside. We don't need you in the battle. We don't need you to stand up for the Constitution if you don't know how to stand up for the Constitution and fight and do it with unity. Meaning, it doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter your size. It doesn't matter your age. Doesn't matter your gender. None of that matters. All that matters is that you're standing up and that you're fighting for your constitutional, God-given rights. And if you don't know how to do that and you want to be rude and all that other kind of stuff, it really is best just to keep that to yourself, because you're a part of the problem. You're not helping anything. You're a part of the tyrannical controlled system. You're pretty much trolling. And some people get into it to such a point of trolling that they don't even know they're trolling, because they're not doing anything action-oriented to actually get to the same common goal. They're just spreading more tension, spreading more division, more fear, more lies, and now is not a time for that. So I actually, ask people, stay away from me with all of that drama and all of that mess. We've done hours, I don't know, we probably have between 15 and 20 hours logged of interviews with you now and Brandon, and I still get a whole bunch of questions. So now I'm going to make sure I leave a link below all of these videos so that you can go to the whole set of interviews that we've done with Brandon Curtis. And, you can feel free to go through all 15 to 20 hours and find out the things that we've been talking about, because we've discussed everything. And now, from now on, we'll be taking calls as we did with this interview, and we appreciate you actually doing that, Brandon. It's kind of a quick last-minute interview. We decided to go ahead and get it out there because people were asking, a few questions, so we want to make sure everybody gets this information. Is there anything else that you'd like to close out with, Brandon?
No, I just want to tell everyone out there, thank you for all the support and all the kind words and encouragement that people have been sending us. We really appreciate that. And we do pass it along to Eric and Scott Drexler, Eric Parker, Steve Stewart, Todd Engel. We pass it along to their friends and family and the people that need to hear that. We just ask that, people please try to help us support these guys. I have put our donation link on here, and I've talked about donations and needing that in Burns. But I really don't stress on it that hard. But now I'm stressing on it. We have got to help these guys. They stood up for us. And even if you don't agree with it, agree with the photo or them being there or whatever the case is, the reality is they were going to stand for what they believe was right, and that's the freedom that they wanted to protect. And, look at Eric's children in the face and tell them that he wasn't doing that for the right cause. And you'll be hard-pressed to do that, because their cause was true, and there was no malicious intent behind it. And I know they would do that for us, so we need to do that for them and step up now.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm always with any group of individuals that always stands up, for their rights. There's a lot of us out here that talk about it, but there's very few men that actually go out there and do it. So people discredit groups like the Black Panthers that were responsible for bringing breakfast programs and education and before and after school care programs to neighborhoods that needed them. And yeah, they were gun-toting guys that protected their rights and protected their communities. And I've always stood up for people that believe in absolutely protecting their rights. They're communities that have no malicious intent towards others. They're not hunting others down and looking to cause them any harm. They just want to be left alone so that they can have normal functionality without an overreaching local, state, or federal government in all of their affairs. So, if you're out there and if you're listening to this or viewing this, understand the people that you're listening to. Brandon Curtis of the Idaho 3%ers, Sherrod Sincere Norman of the All Rights Matter show on Anon Radio Live. We are people that believe truly that all rights matter. And at the end of the day, anybody that's standing up for godly constitutional rights, that is a friend, not a foe. So we have to realize who our friends are. We have to realize those who we need to have unity with, stand in solidarity with. If we can start doing that, then we can start rebuilding everything that's being stripped from us. If we can't do that, then we might as well just say, hey, you know what? It's about time the United States goes ahead and puts a dictator in office, and we don't care about our rights anyway. So I don't believe we're that kind of a country. I believe we're the kind of country that still stands on great logic and also our basic principles of our founding documents and our godly constitutional rights. So with that being said, Brandon, thank you for coming on the All Rights Matter show. Thank you for sharing your time with us once again. We really appreciate that. You'll be in our prayers. We'll make sure that we leave a link in the description section so that people could just click on it to be able to get to your donations a little bit faster. Again, thank you for everything. And as always, brother, stay alert, stay alive.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys having me on here. I really appreciate it, Sherrod.
All right. No problem at all, brother. You take care now.
You too.